Welcome to The Worthy Woman, a podcast for the intuitive, ambitious woman who's ready to regulate her nervous system, reconnect with her body, and rise to the next level of success, health, and purpose. I'm your host, Jo, manual osteopath, holistic coach, and nervous system guide, here to walk with you as you heal from the inside out and create a life and a business that actually feels good. On this podcast, we explore the connection between your body, emotions, subconscious patterns, and your ability to lead, create, and live from your worth. Let's get into today's episode. Okay, welcome back to another episode of The Worthy Woman, and today we are talking about how your energetic body is impacting your business. And so you've probably been learning about business, investing in your, whether it's money or even time or energy into your business. You've been posting lots. Maybe you've struggled with consistency, but you still have this intention around your business to grow it and move forward, but you feel like your results are not really getting anywhere, or it's kind of inconsistent, or it's harder than it should be, and you just feel like it's this uphill battle, right? And a lot of times this has nothing to do with your strategy, and it has everything to do with your energy. And so we want to work on our energy so that we can start to shift things. And so I want to take this episode to kind of talk you through how your energetic body is actually impacting your business, so that you kind of understand a little bit more of how it works, or why it works, or what could be kind of getting in the way. So most people approach their business from a place of, again, strategy or mindset, when it's kind of surface level mindset. But realistically, your results are actually created from your nervous system, your subconscious mind, your energetic body. So these three things are the three things that I focus on in business, because it's commonly, especially I posted this on my Instagram actually, but it's commonly a area that entrepreneurs and people in general overlook, right? Because this is the deeper work, the harder work, the work where we have to really look at ourselves and be like, how am I getting in my own way? You know what I mean? Which is not always what we want to look at as our faults, right? And so a lot of us take the approach in business where we're like, okay, I need a content strategy. I need a marketing strategy. I got to post on this app and that app. And this content strategy seems to really be working for people. So let me go pivot over to here, right? So a lot of us approach and use this strategy piece as I'm taking action in my business. But what they're really missing is this other deeper layer within themselves that is producing results on the outside of themselves, right? So your business doesn't really respond to what you say you want. It responds to what your system and your energy is available for. And so that's why especially if we've hit plateaus in our business, or we've hit this point in our business where things feel very stagnant and things feel stuck and things aren't really shifting and moving, we have to look at what's going on internally to start to have this shift in our outside world and what we're bringing in kind of around us, right? So with the energetic body, I want to make this kind of digestible a little bit for you. So think of your energetic body like a blueprint or a filter, and everything passes through it before it becomes your reality. So we have our physical body, where we have what things that we experience, right? We have our symptoms, our actions, what our body looks like, right? We have more of the physical piece of our body, how it feels, right? And then we have a little bit, we'll say kind of outside of that, we'll say we have our stored feelings in our emotional body. So we have our physical body, then we have our emotional body, which again stores our feelings. So things like fear, guilt, shame, excitement, any of your sadness, worry, all these things kind of get stored in our emotions, and they influence our physical body as well. And then we have our mental body, which is our beliefs, our thoughts, our identity, right? And so there's kind of this landscape of how we see ourselves in our mental body and the world around us. And then we have our energetic body, which is our aura. And this is the field that kind of holds everything. And it kind of is, our aura is outside of us. And typically with disease and things like that, to kind of go from a health perspective, things enter our energetic field first, our aura first, and then they start to influence our physical body. And so these things in our world, our aura is always kind of like sensing the world around us and taking certain things in or not, right? Based on our own protective energy, what we're clearing, what we allow, what we believe, right? And so things kind of live in this energetic aura, this energetic body. And so when it comes to our business, this can be like past experiences, emotional wounds, like old feelings we haven't like processed or we've kind of repressed, subconscious beliefs, identity patterns, unprocessed like stress, right? If we're constantly under stress, fears around like visibility, money, success, having clients, putting ourselves out there, right? And so even if you're not consciously like thinking about something, your body and your energy still remember, what is and what has gone on and or what we've been told or our beliefs, right? It's kind of that subconscious piece is very woven into our energetic body because the body is what remembers, right? And our subconscious is actually our body. That's where it gets stored. So when things get stored in our subconscious mind, they're getting stored in the body, right? Our conscious mind is more our mental. It's kind of like, I don't want to say outside of us, but it is kind of in a way. It's not, our conscious mind isn't stored in our body the way that the subconscious is. So in our business, this can show up in a lot of different ways. And depending on who you are, this will show up in different ways, right? Like we all have our different kind of like blocks or ailments or struggles in business, in, our career, our success, our money, right? All of these sorts of things. So I wanted to give you some examples of like things that can show up in your business if you have an energetic piece that is influencing you and we'll say like getting in the way of you reaching the goals that you want to reach. So let's say you have inconsistent income. So what this is really saying energetically is like your energy doesn't feel safe holding more. And that could be more money, more clients, more experiences. It's just like you don't have the capacity to take on more, right? And it doesn't have that safety. And so you kind of experience these like upper limit patterns where it's like, okay, I make this much money, but then to get to the next one or to even hold a consistent amount, you probably have a baseline. Like even if your income's inconsistent, you probably have like, well, I never usually make under this much, but I have also made as much as this much. So there's kind of this like ebb and flow, but you probably have a bottom limit, but you are constantly realizing like, I don't hit more than this, or I can't hold this consistently, this amount, right? I was experiencing this with my money where I would always, it didn't matter where I worked, how often I worked, like what was going on in my life. Like I always would never make more than this one amount. And I would make sometimes less than that. I usually kind of stayed within this like small little buffer range. But no matter what I did, I could never get above it. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Because it's not for lack of trying and it's not for lack of effort and understanding and knowing what to do in my business. But I was just like, it still was not happening. And just recently, I've been able to move past that upper limit that I was having. And so as you go along and you hear people talk about this in the business world, it's like, oh, well, like I had to shift my beliefs, my mindset from going from 10K months to 20K months to 50K months to 100K months, right? Like there's always going to be, each level you try to go to, there can be this resistance that you meet. And again, it's that piece energetically of like, what do I feel safe in holding? Do I believe I'm capable of doing it, right? And having it. So that's number one, is like inconsistent income. Number two is this fear of visibility. And so this typically shows up as like throat or heart chakra energy blocks. And so we have this like fear of expression because we are fearing being judged or rejected by people. And so we don't want to be seen because we're maybe embarrassed or maybe there's shame or we're worried about people like, again, rejecting us. And if you have any sort of abandonment wounds or feeling of like, well, I have to do the right thing in order to be loved, that is going to show up in your how you show up, how consistent you are in showing up, and also the amount of clients and the people that can find you. The other piece that comes into the fear of visibility is Do you have any, and this comes into like the being judged and the being rejected is like, do you believe you're pretty enough? Do you believe, and it's not that you have to be pretty enough, but that there's this block around like, well, I have to look a certain way in order to get a certain result, right? And so a lot of women have this fear of visibility where their image, how they look, the weight they've put on, the color of their hair, like being, having acne or having like these imperfect, Instagram photos or videos, things like that, where it's like we're constantly judging ourselves. Like I can't show up on social media and not put a filter on, right? Like all these little pieces that we feel like, oh, I can't show up as who I am at any point in time. And it's one thing if you want to show up that way from a professional perspective, that's totally fine. However, like I'm not necessarily showing up in my PJs. Sometimes I am, but you might have a expectation of yourself of like how you show up. But as long as it's not from a place of like, well, I can't do that because what if people say something or what if people judge me? As long as it doesn't come from that place, that's okay. But this fear of being judged or rejected is going to show up in our body as it's unsafe to do those things. And also I'm holding back, right? And maybe you're holding back what you really want to say because you're afraid of what people might think, right? Or what if people don't agree with this opinion? And what if people hate me for it or whatever, right? Like our mind and our body do crazy things. And a lot of these things stem from our childhood and our upbringing of like things that we've experienced throughout our life up until this point. So that's number 2 is the fear of visibility. Number 3 is this overworking and burning out. So our nervous system, when it's stuck in fight or flight, we are going to probably hit burnout, or we're going to find ourselves like constantly feeling like we have to do, or we're busy all the time to keep ourselves busy because we feel like we should, right? So it's kind of this proving energy. And what's interesting is that the nervous system, when it's in like fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which I have talked about a lot on this podcast, when it's in those 4 states, the root chakra is the one that's being the most affected, because the root, which is the red center at the base of your body, like the base of your pelvis, the root chakra is linked to our sense of safety and our sense of survival. And when you're in these nervous system states, you're in a survival mode. You're not in this abundant, expansive energy. You're in this energy of like, well, I have to do this, right? Or like, this is the only way I know how to show up right now, right? And so when we look at burnout, and when you look at the root chakra, this is also like a pressure center where we can experience pressure from other people, experiences, situations, where we feel this pressure in our life, whether it's from ourselves or from other people, or this feeling like we should do something. And so when we experience this pressure, it can kick us into this nervous system state of the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? Typically fight or flight, those are going to be big ones when it comes to burnout and overworking, because usually the freeze especially is usually like you've already hit the burnout. You're already in it. And so your response is to just like shut down, right? So when we're overworking and we're burning out, we need to ask ourselves, like, what are we trying to prove right now, right? Why do I feel like I have to show up? Is this a belief? Is this a thought? What is the reason why this is influencing me so much? And why do I feel like I have to show up in this way? And maybe there's just like a restructuring that needs to happen in your business. And that's where could be, some of the pressure is coming from. But some of us, this is just like a conditioned belief of how we're meant to show up. We don't really need to show up that much. You hear all the time, especially with women, they're like, the more I actually stepped back and implemented systems and structures into my business that like eased up my time, the more money I made, right? And so if you're like me, you know that the correlation of energy and time that you put into things isn't correlated to the amount of money that you can make, because you've seen people do the opposite. But it's getting out of that conditioning and that belief from an energetic perspective, even if logically we know that like there is an easier way to do this. So number 4 is procrastination and avoidance. So this is more of a freeze response. It can also be a little bit of flight response, because flight sometimes can do like busy work where it's like I'm doing all these things, but I'm still avoiding the thing that I have to actually do. And procrastination and avoidance is this kind of more subconscious fear of failure or success. Or again, it can be this overwhelm where we're feeling very overwhelmed by everything that we have to do, and I'm not going to be able to do this. And so it's this fear of like, I can't hold this, I can't handle this. And so it kind of ties into that fear of failure, but it also could just be this lack of safety that you're experiencing where you don't feel safe in your current space. And that's an energetic, a fear, a subconscious belief that like you're not safe, and it's this state that you're in. And so I find often with procrastination and avoidance is also, again, another one of where your nervous system is dysregulated, and things like energy work can actually help rebalance your nervous system, recalibrate your nervous system, and kind of get you out of this mode if you can get yourself to do the thing that's going to regulate your nervous system. So sometimes with procrastination avoidance, it's hard to, or you might feel like it's hard to kind of get yourself to do the thing that you know is going to kick you out of it. And this is because you're kind of in this, again, freeze response where you're like, I don't want to do anything. And getting up and doing anything feels like it's really, really challenging. So the key here in this, if you've been procrastinating or you've been avoiding, like do one small step. So let's say I have to record this podcast. Well, to start it, and the one small step is going to be one, move, like get up and move out of the chair I'm in or the space that I'm in, and just literally just get up and start shifting your body. You can do this in small ways by even just starting to like wiggle your toes and move your hands, move your legs, and then that'll trigger the like, okay, like let's get up and move. The other way you can do this when it comes to tasks is like if there's specifically a task that you're avoiding, literally just like for me with this podcast, it was like, okay, plug the microphone in, pull out my notes, and sit down and press play, like those are the small little tiny steps that like once you do those, it's like everything else kind of starts to follow afterwards. So we can take these small little steps to help ourselves get out of these states as well. But energetically, you're having to shift your energy and how you're showing up in order to start the thing. And then number 5 is a hard time signing clients. So sometimes what this is this misalignment between the desire that we have versus this energetic availability. Like, what are we actually available for? And are we, like, logically, you might be like, okay, I need this many clients so I can make this much money. And you can kind of go through this like logical processing. But then your energy or your energetics start to dip, or they fluctuate, or they're kind of all over the place. Or that thing feels scary, or it's like there's still those fears of rejection and fears of like failure or success, right? Like all these things that we've honestly previously talked about in these first 4, these things can come up, and then they're going to get in the way of you energetically opening yourself up to receive clients. And not only just receive clients, but the right clients, right? So our energy and the way that we show up, even if you're showing up on social media constantly, you're selling constantly, you're showing up in a very specific way, your clients and the people who are following you on social media and things like that can feel your energy. And so if you are not confident, or you're doubting yourself, or you're posting things, or you're talking from a space of like questioning whether things are going to work out, or you're not sure if people are going to sign up with you, people can feel that even if you're not saying it out loud, right? So we have to work on our energy and our belief that like those things are coming in, and that you're ready for those things, and that you want those things. Because again, logically we can say one thing, but our body can say another. And so it's getting these two pieces on board. And that's what we can do energetically, is we can clear these subconscious beliefs. We can regulate the nervous system to kind of like recalibrate the energetic body to be open and ready to receive people, clients, experiences, opportunities, money, right? All of these things can then come into our field because we're an energetic match for it. And that's what people are talking about. It's essentially you and this other thing that you want getting on the same page. That's what alignment is, right? It's just you and whatever the thing that you're trying to create getting on the same page, and then you see it, and then the opportunity comes into your awareness, and you're able to grab it if you're ready for it, right? So it's not that you don't know what to do in your business, because a lot of us do, right? A lot of us know that like we got to post, we got to like promote ourselves, we got to show up, we got to create things, right? But it's that our system and there's something within our energetic body or our nervous system or our subconscious mind that doesn't feel safe doing that thing or receiving the thing that we're trying to create. And so when it comes to our energetic body, energy is meant to move, right? And so when it doesn't, it's going to stagnate. It's going to create tension, whether that's physically, emotionally, energetically, right? It just creates this stuck energy. So anytime you feel stuck or you feel resistance or you feel blocked, even if it's creatively or something like that, the energy has stagnated, right? And we can see this in our physical body sometimes, like maybe you start to feel a little puffy, or like your lymph is kind of stagnated. Maybe you've got tension in your body, like maybe you're holding on to something emotionally. There could be stress or like tension in your shoulders, right? Like sometimes we can have these physical responses to them, headaches, whatever. But just like our body needs to move to stay healthy, so does our energy. It needs to move in order to create the results that we're looking for. And so we need to have this flow, and we need to help the body create this movement, and we can do that through energetic work, right? So this is why in my work I incorporate the energy, because coaching alone, it creates this awareness. Yeah, you have clarity. You might start to see your patterns and understand like how you need to show up differently and the things that you maybe need to start implementing on a daily basis to help yourself, right? So you kind of get this like take-home piece from the coaching that you're like, okay, I get that. I can see now this maybe from a different lens or a different perspective. But when we also include the energy work, it shifts your energy at the root, right? So it helps you create this sense of safety, and it also allows you to recalibrate your energy, clear things that need to be cleared, and recalibrate your energy so that things again are in alignment with what you're trying to create. And the more work we can do energetically, the more and more you're going to open yourself up to this different work, right? So this really allows the integration. It allows your body to shift. It allows you to go through, again, the things that need to shift, and also the things that you learn that are like, okay, I need to start implementing this in my life, right? In my business, that you learn in the coaching piece. Energetically, when we can shift your sense of self, showing up in those ways or doing those things is going to be easier. There's not going to be as much resistance to it, right? So we don't create change from just having this awareness. We create change from what the body and the energy actually integrate and believe, and the way and the state in which they are in, right? So again, when we are in energetic alignment, it means that our thoughts, our emotions, our body, and our energy are all moving in the same direction, right? So if you say, I want more clients, I want to make more sales, I want to make more money, but you feel this pressure or fear or doubt, you're actually misaligned. And it's just because, again, what you're saying you want versus what your energy is saying you want they're in a different space, right? So here's how you can start to, make changes in your energy. So if you're starting to notice that like you feel this resistance, so we want to first start with this awareness, right? We want to feel where the resistance actually in our body, right? What is actually going on? Is it tightness in the chest? Is it like neck and shoulder tension? Is my back sore? Everything just feels tight, whatever, right? Then we want to slow down instead of trying to force ourselves to do things, right? We want to regulate our nervous system, and then we want to become aware of these patterns without this judgment or shame that we, kind of put on ourselves. You can do things like breath work, grounding, meditation, right? On my YouTube channel, have a ton of meditations and subliminals that I'm adding, so you can do those sorts of things to kind of slow you down. And then we can do this Reiki and this energetic work. And so there's a lot of different things that you can start to do to then start to shift, right? And this is where in my work, when I work with clients, we don't just talk about what needs to change, but we actually work with the body and your energy to shift what you need, right? To shift the energy, to shift your state, right? And so if you're struggling with like, what you need to do in your business, but something just still isn't clicking, or your results aren't really matching the effort and the energy that you're putting into your business, right? That is why I created my business energetic breakthrough bundle, which is 3 sessions over 6 weeks. It blends coaching and the Reiki energy work so that you don't just understand your blocks, but you're actually starting to shift them, right, with that energetic work. And so each session has an energetic session in it. And then there's 2 weeks kind of between for you to integrate, implement things, and, make these changes and shifts in your business and see what comes up for you. And so the link for that will be down below. I would also encourage you guys, if you are listening to this podcast and you're interested, I will leave the link to follow me on Substack. I will be posting, I already do, but I'll be posting my podcast episodes every week, as well as anything on my YouTube channel is going to be going on my Substack. So it's a great way to kind of get notified, because I know YouTube's not always the best with that. But it's a great way to, if you want to read it, you can read things. But you can also listen to the audio or watch the videos. They'll all be embedded in there for you. So it's just a way to kind of get notified. Things go straight to your inbox, obviously, right? It kind of works like an email system in that sense. So if you want to stay updated, want to stay up with, kind of what's going on in my world, that'll be a great way to do that. So I will leave the link for that Substack down below for you guys to subscribe and join. It is free. It's just going to be a place that's kind of like a central hub for me a little bit. So yeah, that is pretty much it for today. I hope this made sense. If you guys have any other questions around energy work and things like that, feel free to message me either on Instagram or comment it down below if you're watching this on YouTube. I'd love to know. I'd love to be able to break this down a little bit more for you if that's something that is helpful for you. But I'm so passionate about this energetic work because I've seen such a shift in myself and my own energy and what I've been attracting and shifting in my own life and my business. So yeah, like a year ago, I wasn't able to show up like this from a content perspective in my business because I just I didn't have the clarity. I didn't have the energy. I didn't have the direction. And now I feel like I have all that. And it's shifted since I've been implementing the energy work. So I'd love for you to experience that too. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for being here as always. And we'll dive into another episode next week. Again, make sure you join my Substack because you're going to get updates on that throughout the week. And then otherwise, I hope you guys enjoy. So thank you for being here, and I will see you guys in the next episode.